Welcome back, everybody, to week 2 of the Double Dip Draft Season 4 recap analysis series. My name is Spood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers. Joining me again is
Aurora from the Hoensbroek Hunters, and we're here to recap week 2, Division 2, which admittedly is the division we are in ourselves, but
yeah.
Don't worry about that. There's not going to be any bias. Spood is going to shut up during his match. I'll shut up during my own match.
Right, it's going to be good. Thank you for your patience. I know these are coming out just a smidgen late. We had some hiccups. We did have a bye week for Christmas. If you're not aware, if you're not looking down at the descriptions date, you'll notice that we are doing this late December into January. So, of course, we took a week off for the holiday season to let everybody kind of get caught up. Aurora, you had some pressing matters. Feel free to talk about those if you want to. Sparing the details.
Yeah, I was kind of busy dying at the hospital for like close to 2 weeks, so it was kind of rough. But everything, we're getting everything back on track. We're taking care of YouTube shit again, making sure it's all up to date.
Right. So. At this point in time, as of recording this, week 3 has actually concluded already. So we are trying to get everything caught up. We're trying to front load it all so that we can get it all uploaded in a reasonable time, so that hopefully by Division 4 recap time, we've caught up and we've made up the gap in content for all of you lovely people watching at home. And I guess with that having been said, let's not mince any more words. Let's jump right on into our first match. That's going to be Remedy, the coach of the Kansas City Krabbys, versus Spoopman, coach of the Heerlen Hawluchas. Aurora, what did you think?
I think that this was a match where attacks were clicked a lot.
Yeah, this is very much
there was not a lot of setup going on. There was not a lot of like special moves going on. It was just hit the opponent or switch out if you can't hit the opponent.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny that like the lead is Skarmory, and Skarmory just kind of dies for hazards. But aside from that, yeah, I mean it's literally just Spoopman is running double Moxie on Gyarados and Crocodile, and he makes it work. Admittedly, Remedy does keep it very close, but Spoopman, he just puts on an unreasonable amount of pressure.
Yeah, if you sort of like look at Spoopman's team, it's not exactly designed to take hits. Gyarados is slightly bulky only, Crocodile slightly bulky only. Doublade is very bulky from the physical side, but super weak on the special side, and I think the same goes for Pileswine. So,
yeah, I believe so.
Spoopman definitely had the intention to have this match be over as soon as possible.
Yeah, to just click buttons as hard as he can, and I mean he does. It does end up panning out. He identifies certain like threats to his sweep, like the air balloon on Heatran. But I don't know. Remedy kind of lets Pokemon die, which I don't necessarily love. Aurora did convince me that keeping the Mimikyu in the back for Crocodile was a good idea, which I agree with, but Toxtricity kind of just eats an Earthquake for no reason. I know Remedy said that she didn't know that Gyarados got Earthquake, but yeah, it just kind of dies.
Yeah, it's also a matter of, like, I think even if it didn't get Earthquake, if you just kind of run calcs on it, it probably would have died to just a water move anyway. The Toxtricity is not the most bulky thing out there, and Gyarados already had a Moxie Boost at this point.
Yeah, so it was pretty tough. It was winnable for Remedy, though, honestly. I mean, the Mimikyu... So the Mimikyu outsped Crocodile. It revealed that it was not Scarf because it used Earthquake and Knock while being out on the field. So... in theory, if it was a max speed Mimikyu, then it could outrun and just one-shot the Crocodile with a Play Rough, assuming that it hit, of course, which put Remedy in a better endgame position versus Hawlucha and Piloswine. It still would have been hard, because the air balloon had been knocked off already, but I don't know, it would have been better.
Yeah. It at least would have mattered for differential, because it would have been a combination of Heatran and Mimikyu versus Hawlucha and Piloswine. With Mimikyu, if Remedy went for Player right away and hit it right away, Crook would have been dead, and Mimikyu still would have had the disguise, meaning that Mimikyu could always beat Hawlucha 1v1. Heatran would win versus Piloswine 1v1, but Hawlucha beats Heatran and Piloswine beats Mimikyu, so you just sort of have very complicated game of rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, you kind of just have to have already gotten the correct read or like the correct
Yeah.
play beforehand.
It's sort of a question of like who is in with what at the right moment, and if it's in this case it happened to work out in Spookman's favor, and ends up killing Heatran, which leaves Mimikyu out in the open without disguise up.
Yeah.
Or just eat shit.
I mean, there's not a lot to even really discuss in terms of the raw gameplay. There are a couple of misclicks on Remedy's side, I think. But it still stays like very, very competitive, and I think that like a player off here and preserving Toxtricity there could have done a lot better for Remedy. Like I liked the early Toxic on the Gyarados; it paid dividends. I don't know. I mean, it was a 14-turn game. Like it's really just like Pokemon dies, Pokemon dies, Pokemon dies, Pokemon dies. There's not a lot to get into. They didn't even really. I don't think either of them made a ton in terms of like reads. Although bringing in the Heatran on the Earthquake at the beginning was strong with the Air Balloon. Outside of that, I mean, I don't know. They just kind of slapped each other around.
Yeah, it was really just sort of like a turn your brain off and just click the biggest attack moves that you have available.
I mean, some games are just like that, I would say, if anything, I kind of didn't like Spookman throwing his Skarmory away super early because I felt like it could have done better to like wall Mimikyu in the end game if maybe he kept it around. But I understand like the Custap hazard stacking, like it kind of worked. So I don't know.
Yeah, it ended up working out for him. It was kind of a risky play because Remedy doesn't have a lot of hazard control, but she does have it in Noctowl, which was still around at the time. But Spookman did make a good point of keeping up pressure enough that there really wasn't a turn to defog.
Yeah, I mean, it came out and just instantly got waterfalled and dead. So I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, couldn't have done too much.
Does Remedy even have another form of hazard removal?
I don't think so.
You'd
have to check. I think. I've got to keep the replay open for the visual
component. I know. Hazards removal. No, it's just Noctowl and defog.
Yeah, that's rough. That's hard. Yeah, like not having good hazard removal can be really tough.
Definitely, and I feel sort of the chip damage definitely did edge like every switch closer in Spookman's favor.
Yeah, I will say it's a minor thing, but it's funny that the Air Balloon prevented Heatran from taking Spikes damage, which I actually do think could have made a difference in some endgame scenarios like we were talking about, like hypothetically. Because it switched in twice on rocks and took like 8/8. But if it was taking spikes as well, then it would have been quite a bit worse.
Yeah. I think aside from that, the only like other thing of note really here is Hawlucha coming in without Bulu, so no terrain nonsense.
What was he running? Did he reveal?
No. Might have been nothing actually for acrobatics. But then I know he runs
running
Bravebird.
So and he's not leftovers. He's not choice because he used two different moves.
That showed the ability Mold Breaker, so he didn't have.
He didn't have Unburden. Maybe he was Assault Vest for like Heatran or something. Like maybe to switch it in. That would have been weird. But
I don't know. It's not revealed, and I'm not sure if it got hit by much for like calculation's sake.
Yeah.
It only got hit by Shadow Sneak.
I don't know. Weird Hawlucha set. We're gonna have to ask him about that because that's strange.
Yeah, we'll have to see about it in the future.
Does Mold Breaker go through disguise?
That's a good question. I wish I had an answer for you. Well, it might.
Hey,
I think it might.
Maybe it does. It would make sense. That might be why he didn't bring Bulu, was because he was like not even going to use the terrain, so he might as well keep his Earthquakes like topped off with his Moxie Sweepers.
That's true. He did not know week 1 that grassy terrain fucks Earthquake.
Yeah.
Earthquake, Magnitude, and Bulldoze are the 3 things that Earthquake fucks. But
I didn't even know it did Bulldoze until I was doing the analysis for the other division for this week. You'll hear me. There's a recording of me learning that Bulldoze is reduced damage, and me going, "What the fuck? That doesn't make any sense."
I'm pretty sure that's where I'm getting my information from too. So
nice.
It's all just hearsay. Anyway, I think that does bring us to our next match of the week, the second one, which took place between Jason, coach of the Hartford Honchkrows, and Cabral, coach of the #slinging Aegislashers.
Now with fixed logo.
Now with a fixed logo. I'm sorry about that, Cabral. I'm not natively English speaking. I don't know how to spell Aegislashers.
Yeah, I do not know how to spell Aegislashers.
Slash.
This was a really tight game. I spoke to Cabral about this game after the fact. He said that he ran it back. That they played, basically they were in a call together and they played a second, like a rematch game where Cabral beat him.
Ah, yeah. I mean, we already see, like, sort of in the, well, I guess we'll call it the canon version of the match, the match that actually counts.
The timeline that we are in.
The timeline that we are in. If you play it all the way out to the end, it does end up in Jason's favor, but Cabral did have the option to win with a different play and just didn't realize it at the time and didn't go for it.
Yeah. I thought Cabral's team was very well constructed. There's a lot of just like random stuff that like maybe mattered. Like there was an early toxic miss on the Frostmoth, yeah, which kind of, I mean, it would have helped. It would have prevented it, I think, from setting up double quiver dance. Like maybe it would have pressured Jason to not do that. Maybe he would have done it anyway. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there was enough time for it to have killed it, but you know, it would have been something to pressure it out.
It's sort of a question that Cabral ends up kind of throwing away. I think like it's two Pokemon.
Yeah. Tornadus dies, Pelipper dies, Seismitoad dies before he remembers, oh shit, I have a Barraskewda that can just kill it.
Yeah, so that ends up being a fort. I think if Cabral realized that earlier, I think just like from there on out, it might have been like a lot more in his favor.
Yeah. And Cabral plays decent the rest of the game too. And the hydration Vaporeon really comes in clutch later. But I don't know, it's hard.
Yeah, I found it a very good call actually on Cabral's part, because Vaporeon is usually sort of like famous/infamous for running, what do you call it?
Water Absorb?
Water Absorb. And I guess Cabral realized that he was not going to be facing a lot of water type moves. So he opted for hydration, because that gets rid of your paralysis, sleep, and all that bullshit. If rain is up, which Cabral is a rain team, so
yeah, so rain is usually going to be up. And you see, I mean, Surf is just like 2-hit KO and everything on this team, either 1 or 2, and it's just like, I don't know. This Vaporeon got a lot of. It could have had more mileage, but it did a lot of damage. I would have loved to have seen rest on this thing, but I think when we were running drills, it was like kind of hard. Like it was hard to find the opportunity to fit it on. Yeah, because it needed to be able to surf. It needed to be able to, you know, I don't know, I think it had like a phasing move or something for like Curse Wailord. I don't know. There was like weird sets that we were prepping for that Jason ended up not bringing.
Jason has an interesting team. I think like the most terrifying thing on here is definitely the Urshifu, and you do see it like early just taking lives with Wicked Blow.
Yeah, Urshifu's crazy. It's being suspect tested, right?
I think it is, yeah.
So it's a great Pokemon, but
isn't like the multi-hit version already like out or something?
I thought Rapid Strike was worse than Single Strike.
It's possible. I don't know. I so rarely play.
Yeah.
Regular.
I'm pretty sure Single Strike is being suspect tested and Rapid Strike is just like kind of fine.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like I don't think anybody even like drafted the
Rapid Strike version.
The Rapid Strike version.
True. Maybe next season. We'll see. I did want to point out, we mentioned earlier that there was a play that cost Cabral the game here against Jason, and I wanted to show it. And I wanted to kind of belabor the point, because we ran some calcs and we hard guaranteed that this was the case. So Griff Ball the Vaporeon is in, and basically it's sitting here thinking like, okay, there's 2 things you can do here. You can either surf and kill the Nidoking in front of you, or you can Rain Dance, because he's shown Rain Dance already. And if he Rain Dances, Barraskewda outspeeds and 1-hit KOs everything else with Liquidation. And unfortunately, because he does not get the Rain up, when Barraskewda does come out, it fails to one-shot either Moltres or Thundurus when, after the calc, even with, I think you said, substantial investment.
Yeah, in order for Thundurus to live a Liquidation, it would need at least 200, EVs in HP, and only then it would survive on the absolute lowest roll. With max HP investment, it would be a 75%, and from there you would have to start investing in defense.
Yeah.
But at that point, you're not running Thunders anymore, so you're not going to do that.
Right. And the liquidation, I mean, it just straight up would have killed. And it's unfortunate because when you look at it, I mean, this was a 1-0 victory where Jason's last Pokemon had 13%. I mean, this is pretty much as close of a game as you can get in draft. And it's just, to see Cabral, like, fall off just a little bit because he made one misplay, it's like,
Yeah.
You know?
Unless
you're Jason, in which case you're partying. You're like, yes, I'm 2-0, let's go! You know? Yeah. He was excited about it, so I'm happy for Jason, but yeah, tragic for Cabral, really.
Yeah, a second sort of like weird thing that I noticed is the Aegislash is running Nightslash for some reason. I'm not sure what it's doing with that.
Yeah, I don't know what that hits. Does he have any like ghost types or something that he didn't bring?
I don't know off the top of my head, but all I know is that he used it against the Nidoking, and the Nidoking ends up barely surviving. Had that Shadow or Nightslash been Shadow Claw, the Nidoking actually would have died to Aegislash.
Well, the Nightslash did crit, for whatever it's worth.
I think it crit once, but he used it twice.
Does that not make up the difference, you think? Or
I'm not sure if it does. Also, Shadow Claw has the same like increased crit chance.
Oh, well, yeah. Then fair enough. You should have used Shadow Claw. Oh well. Hey, hindsight is 20.
Yeah, what I was saying, it's all hindsight, unfortunately.
Cabral is still like a newer player. This is his first time playing competitive. It's his first time in draft, so. Jason kind of has that edge on him as well of just like having played in this division or rather in the league since season 2. Yeah. So, and I mean, he's not even just season 3, but I mean, Jason got in on season 2, so he was kind of an early adopter, you know. It's hard to find season 2 players that are still around. I think it's only Firebolt and Jason who jumped on in season 2 and then stayed.
Yeah, I know Austin left. I forget. I don't know. We had a lot of people.
Yeah, there was a couple of people. Well, Dogmaster was season 1, but that was different. Yeah.
Also, another friend of Jason said we also don't have around anymore.
No, I think you're probably thinking of Dogmaster's friend, right? He was season 3.
Oh, I thought we had like a friend of Jason's also joined.
We'd have to look at that. I don't know. We didn't rehearse this, so maybe not. I don't think so. Anyway.
Yeah, I am excited to see more from Cabral after this, though, because I feel he can get a win.
I'd be shocked if he didn't get a single win. I think really he's on track to beat at least one person. And I think that's really all you can hope for in your first season. Like, it's brutal. My first season of draft was SSL season 1, and I went 0-12, and then I forfeit.
Oh.
So I basically got donkey punched for like 3 months, and I didn't win a single game, and it sucked so bad. So I empathize. Like, I understand what it's like to just get smacked every single week. It's hard.
It's hard. It's not fun. I understand the people that don't want to play anymore because they just keep losing.
Yeah.
We fully admit that we do definitely have a vast range of like skill levels in our league, so it's not always a fair match.
Yeah, not always, but it's you know, we try to make it inviting to newer players, and I think that, you know, for what it's worth, like our newest players like Mass and Cabral, you know, they've expressed that they're enjoying themselves even if they haven't like picked up a win at this point in time. And honestly, I do feel good about Cabral and Mass going forward. Like, I think that they can get something.
They can definitely get wins, and I think sort of like the big thing to look up to for like newcomers is definitely what Love and Sky pulled last season.
Yeah, Love and Sky changed the game.
It's just a question of just like this complete newcomer, never played Pokemon, never played a draft league before, just fucking straight up gets second place in the entire league.
And it's not even like a fluke second. Like, he got 7 wins in his first season. That's insanity. It took me like 3 seasons of draft to hit 7 wins. He did it in 1.
Yeah, it's really funny if you look at the statistics now, because Love and Sky is labeled as like, I think, the 3rd best all-time coach for win-loss ratio, because it's a 70% win ratio.
Yeah, because
which is better than you and me.
I know, we're both worse than Love and Sky. Isn't that crazy? Like, just But I don't know. It's funny the way that works out. So I don't know. I think that the new breed of like Pokemon players that we are encountering, they're just like a lot fucking smarter than I was when I started. You know, I feel like everybody else kind of has a better grip on team building and kind of I don't know. Everyone else they're grinders. You know, what made Love in Sky great is that he took it seriously and he put a lot of time into it. And he would like research things, and he'd have his type matchup chart on his second monitor, and he'd always check it. And fucking Firebolt doesn't even do that, bro. Firebolt forgets what the type effect is all the time, and he's been playing the game for years. So it's funny when you just like compare and contrast. Like sometimes it really just comes down to like if you're working hard enough, you can kind of overcome a lot of the skill disparity in this game, which I think is really cool. Anyway, that's enough rambling about that.
You got enough track a little bit.
Let's talk about Match 3! We've got Aurora, the coach of the Haunters, and White Loaf, the coach of the Loafville Lanturns. This one was kind of a slobber knocker for Aurora. It kind of just, you know? Unfortunately, White Loaf has not been having the greatest season. I'm saying this post week 3, where he's currently sitting at 0-3 with a pretty nasty looking differential. He just took a couple of bad losses. And it's not too late to pull it back, but as you get into like weeks 3 and 4, that's kind of the middle of the season, you're gonna start to see like the win conditions arise. Like you're gonna start to understand like, okay, actually, here's the games that you need to win, most importantly, to make your playoffs run or to make your deep like bracket run. And unfortunately, White Loaf he's got a mountain to climb.
Yeah, being down, well, after this match 0-2, and as you said, after next week 0-3, basically it comes down to having to win 4 matches in a row.
Yeah.
Which, that's rough. But I think, who has Nick already faced? He's faced me, he's
Yumi and Skittles.
Right.
And the Skittles loss is going to be hard because that is going to affect his likely tiebreaker scenario. Like if he ends up versus like Skittles, Cabral, Jason, Vincent, like the people who aren't firmly at the top of the division right now, which is you and me. Anyone who's not you and me are really scrapping for the remaining 2 like viable playoff spots, and to have lost to Skittles already sucks. It's not so bad that he's lost to you and me, but losing to Skittles is going to affect like the potential tiebreaker, which makes it really tough.
Yeah, it's he's gonna have to pull some shit in order to come out on top again.
Yeah, and it's hard, but I mean, less talking about the actual rankings and more talking about this specific match. I'm gonna try and take the brunt of it since I don't want Aurora necessarily to put her own like biased perspective into it, with all due respect. Miltank and Porygon 2 are kind of, to me, the crucial points of the game, because Miltank is kind of a hard to break wall, and Porygon 2 is an impossible to break wall without like a strong fighting type to just spam like close combat or something on it. Or at the very least, like being able to knock Eviolite makes it a lot more killable. And Nick, just completely on like a matchup basis, could not deal with this Porygon 2. And so what it felt like to me was the dynamic was, can you nullify your opponent's defensive core fast enough to get an advantage? And Aurora, after tricking a Specs onto Miltank, pretty much at that point, in my opinion, had kind of won the game. Because and especially with the para, it helped a lot to just be able to sit there and spam like recover over and over again on the body press until you finally get that para. And she does eventually get the para later. But even without it, I mean, it was kind of an unwinnable matchup without some crazy like crit luck on White Loaf's side.
Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate. And I will admit that I feel Nick also just sort of got a bad matchup because, like you said, you just need something that hits dummy hard in order to break through Porygon 2 or to have like a good, reliable knockoff user. Mm-hmm. Neither of which Nick possesses.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of able to sit there and not take damage.
Yeah. And we love Nick, by the way. That's why we're calling him Nick and not White Loaf. Like, we're on a first name basis. We're cool like that. We're tight. It's just like hard, man. I understand, like, I get it. And I mean, at the end, I mean, really, Aurora, it's just like a thorough dismantling of White Loaf's team. I mean, at the end, like this choice, Blacephalon is just stuck shadowballing an immunity that, at that point, I mean, when you get to the point in the game where you're like, oh, I'm just gonna make this play so that my differential is better. It's like I think you pretty much won like 10 turns ago.
Yeah, I guess
I don't know.
it was sort of like a scenario where like he can click either flamethrower or he can click shadow ball, both of which I could answer.
Yeah. It's not even like that Nick was playing bad or anything, right? Like White Loaf did fine. It's just that he was kind of hard countered by a few things, and like it's hard to account for something like tricking specs from a Victini, because like who would, it makes sense from your end on like a team building perspective, but it's hard to account for every possible shutdown method that you might have for this like Miltank or whatever.
Yeah, I would even argue Nick was playing well, because Zarud could have torn up his team a lot faster if I got even a single read correct, but I kept getting the incorrect read on which attacks. I kept close combating the wrong Pokemon and Darkest Lariating the wrong Pokemon.
Yeah, the Zarud was close combating Bronzong and Darkest Lariating on the Miltank, and it was just not getting hits. I will say, at the very least, White Loaf was able to kill the Pheromosa, which was cool. Also, just a fun, like, weird fun fact. It didn't really end up mattering because people don't really run, like, I don't know, like poison gas or whatever. It would just be like applying regular poison, maybe like T-spikes on something. But the toxic on Slowbro actually would have been better as just like a regular poison, because it never gets the opportunity to ramp up, given that it's just regenerator and like teleport spamming. It just eats it up.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because toxic is indeed better if you like stay in, because it's 6% less damage the first turn, still 6% less damage on the second turn, then it gets equal on the third, and only starts like gaining advantage from the fourth turn onwards, which Slowbro is just teleporting out constantly. So
yeah, there's a lot of niche scenarios where you'll find that regular poison is better than toxic, and this would be one of them in theory. Not that that was like an actionable piece of information, but it's just kind of a cute little trivia. Also, you said that you spec'd out your EV spread to live in E-Speed, right?
Yeah, Pheromosa had like a bunch of HP investment to live. I think I calced originally for Life Orb E-Speeds, and I think Nick ended up being banded, so I think there might have been a chance that he killed, especially with a crit.
Yeah.
But Pheromosa ends up, I think, living with like 10%, which is not about like okay-ish. And I haven't exactly on the calc on the band.
Right. Hard to say. A lot of theory crafting here. I mean, it was like a slow, very methodical match where I think that you just kind of like White Loaf had momentum in the early game. He took out your really scary sweeper, and then unfortunately just got defensively stuffed by Porygon, and there just wasn't a lot that he could have done better. I can't really see like a crucial misplay anywhere. He just kind of lost at team building from my perspective. So, and that's like tragic, but what can you do? That's part of draft.
Yeah. As I say, like bad matchups, sadly, they're just things that happen. I know I've had them in the past. People like there's always going to be one match where, just from team building, it's a very uphill battle.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Sort of when you realize sort of like, oh hey, if this one Pokemon clicks this like quick Quiver Dance once, I just lose. It's just a question of sort of coming up with creative solutions to it if possible.
Yeah.
And sadly, it's easier to come up with solutions to being swept because you've got Scarfs, you've got Sashes, like sturdy Pokemon, stuff like that, where like breaking through a wall without having the proper tools is just a lot more difficult.
Yeah. And Porygon 2 is, if nothing else, a good wall.
Definitely.
He might have been able to get a little bit more mileage if the Miltank full para didn't happen at the exact time it did. Like getting the body press into like an expanding force. Probably could have killed it or at least forced it out, but then Zarud probably would have come in anyway. I think that maybe it would have minorly affected the differential, but at that point in the game, it was pretty much like Stack Attacka couldn't kill Slowbro, Blacephalon couldn't kill both Porygon and Victini anyway. I mean, shit, it couldn't have even killed both Victini and Zarude now that I'm looking at it. So
Yeah,
yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. It was just unfortunate for Nick, and I mean, I can offer my condolences. I know it feels shitty to offer those. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's what sucks. You know, when you win and you have to talk about your win, and you're just like, man, that sucks. Like, you can't really have that much sympathy, right? But you want to also be like, well, I don't want to be an asshole about it. But
yeah, the only thing I can say is that at least it wasn't just like RNG fucking one side over.
Yeah, it was just, thankfully, no spoilers. You should watch Week 3 Division 2 recap if you want to hear more about RNG fucking somebody over, because not the last of that conversation you'll find.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
I think that leaves us with one more match to talk about.
One more match. Why don't you do us the favor of introducing it?
Yeah, it's Skittles the Butt, coach of the Nevada Ninetales, versus you, Spood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers.
You can't see it, but I'm flexing my muscles. I'm flexing my biceps. That's me.
Flexing too hard.
Yeah, I will similarly try to take a step back from contributing too much of my own theory crafting and things. I'll let you take the brunt of it, but I will chime in when I can. Yeah,
so this match, I know, like, similar to my own match this week, it was just very difficult for Skittles from team building onwards. I did admittedly help Spood team build a little bit and sort of ran a bunch of drills.
Yeah.
Sort of like mock-up teams of Skittles' team. And it was just difficult to find answers to Melmetal, to the electric terrain, Raichu. Funnily enough, even to Morpeko.
Yeah.
Like, Morpeko ends up actually being really good, but in this particular match, Skittles had Braviary Scarfed and it just kind of knocked it out. So good on Skittles for that one.
No,
that was a good play, good team building.
I was excited to like show off Morpeko like Aura Wheel shenanigans, because Aura Wheel pretty much just ate through all 3 of his walls because they were either weak to electric or dark. And it's like a base 110 power move that raises your speed every time you use it. So.
Yeah, and it switches back and forth between being dark type and electric type too. So like it also always would have been at least neutral or better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'm just looking at the team preview here, and I realized that every single last one of your Pokemon's female.
Yeah, girl power. Yeah.
Well, girl power, except for Melmetal, who is non-binary.
Yeah. They, them, Melmetal, Olive. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. The match,
yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, the match like already starts out interesting because I know you're over predicting a little bit by making switches, but Skittles is kind of under predicting by just sort of letting Copper Creekers die instantly. And at that point, like there's 1 toxic spike up on Skittles' side, 2 toxic fight up on your side, and I think it does matter a lot more for your team as Skittles has 2 Pokemon which are immune to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like one of the Pokemon is Suicune that isn't immune to it, which definitely doesn't want to be poisoned.
Yeah, I understand the defog rationale. It also gets rid of the terrain as soon as Pink Urchin comes in, which...
I actually did not know that defog got rid of terrain. I thought it didn't do that.
It does do that. For some reason, it does do that.
I need to DM some people because I'm pretty sure I've told people that it doesn't.
Ooh, let me just open my DMs real quick. Yeah. Talk about my Slurpuff set, Aurora. I want to hear you heap praise on my Slurpuff set.
So there was a Slurpuff set. It was a special Slurpuff, and Slurpuff has one of the funny abilities that we usually see on Hawlucha, which we could have talked about earlier, but it didn't bring it that time.
Mm-hmm.
So Slurpuff did it this week in honor of Hawlucha, let's say. It had Unburden with the terrain, which means if it switches in while electric terrain is up, it uses the seeds, and Unburden doubles its speed. And now suddenly it's faster than anything else, and after a single Calm Mind, which Spood did have and did set up, suddenly it just nukes stuff, especially that Suicune that comes in to try and stop it, and takes a Thunderbolt and just fucking dies.
It was unfortunate that Cresselia was still like alive and in full health, because
Crassus kind of comes in and just walls it, and because it can set up Calm Minds on its own, it would win that battle eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since it actually has like reliable recovery, where Slurpuff does not. But Spood just kind of switches into Melmetal, which is an unbreakable god among men that doesn't die ever and just kills everything with double iron bash.
God among thems. God among
God,
women, frankly. I mean,
it's a thembo.
Thembo, very Thembo kind of Melmetal. I mean, really, it was tough. I mean, this was another matchup where I felt like it was really, really hard for Skittles, or rather, just like, we were talking about how White Lope was kind of had a bad matchup against like your Porygon. Skittles did not have any ground types, so he didn't have any electric immunities. He had like one electric resist in Regidrago that died fairly early. So the Raichu endgame was very possible as soon as like Cresselia was just weakened, and it was hard for him to maintain the game in such a way where it didn't end that way. You know what I mean? Like it was hard for Skittles to not just. Yeah. I don't know. Like the win con.
Skittles did have one more resist or electric resist in Flapple. But Flapple just kind of falls to like literally everything and doesn't deal enough damage. Like Melmetal literally comes in on it every single time and just wipes the floor with it.
Literally can't touch it. So yeah, from a matchup perspective, it was going to be tough for Skittles to win this one anyway. But hey, again, that's draft, right? It happens.
That's draft. I do feel that Skittles did sort of like stretch what he could. I know, like, you can always tell people sort of like paid attention to their own team if they didn't like bring their tier 1 and stuff, because like usually the draft centers around your tier 1. The Skittles' tier 1 is Celesteela, which didn't see the field this time, because obviously like it loses to Pincurchin, it loses to
Raichu, it loses
to Raichu, it loses
Thunder
to
Punch
Morpeko.
Yeah, I mean,
it loses. Well, it doesn't necessarily lose to Incineroar, but it has a tough time against Incineroar. It doesn't do a whole lot against Melmetal. Then again, Melmetal back, but.
And after Unburden, the Slurpuff outruns it, and a Thunderbolt in electric terrain after +1 it's hard for Celesteela to win that too.
So like Skittles sort of realized like, hey, my like ace Pokemon is garbage this matchup, so no reason to bring it.
Yeah. Which is smart. Whenever I see someone without their tier 1, I'm kind of shitting myself a little bit because I'm like, oh my god, they used their brain. Like that's never good.
Yeah, it's definitely they used their brain a little bit at least, and didn't just mindlessly be like, okay, let's just take the top 6 Pokemon that I have, my tier 1, my tier 2, my 2 tier 3s, and one of the tier 4s, and that's my team.
Yeah.
Skittles also sort of had the unfortunate downside where Pokemon like Suicune, Pokemon like Cresselia, like they only really start being problems once they set up, and Spoods with the combination electric terrain with Melmetal's just like sheer power. Like you just don't have the time to set up because you just get beat down faster than you can set up.
Yeah. So and you could see he was going for it too. I mean, he got the Calm Mind with the Crest as soon as he found the opportunity to do it, and that was the right play. But man, it is tough. It's just tough if I like switch hard into Melmetal and be like, all right, well, your Shadow Ball does 30 and your Psychic does like 15, so I'm just gonna start like clicking Double Iron Bash. And
Double Iron Bash also happens to deal more than half of Crest's health, so it can just like Moonlight forever.
Yeah, it kind of can. I mean, Double Iron Bash only has 8 PP, so if it came to it, then maybe at a higher enough health, it could just be spamming Moonlight. But I also had Darkest Lariat.
No, but Moonlight also only has 8 PP, so you would just stall each other out.
I thought it had 16. Oh.
No, Recover has 16.
Wow, that's
Recover
funny. Well, never mind. You're right. Well, that's tough. I will say there was a random niche thing that made this battle a lot more annoying, which was that Cresselia's Levitate makes Rising Voltage not get the double damage from terrain, because it checks to see if the terrain check is very strange, right? Because you get, like, for example, if you're using Thunderbolt, you get the Thunderbolt power increase in electric terrain as long as you are grounded. But with Rising Voltage, it checks if the opponent is grounded to see if it applies the double damage from terrain. So I still got, like, it went from 80 to like 93 or whatever from the terrain boost, but it did not go up to like 180 whatever from the double damage boost because Cresselia had Levitate. So that did make it a lot harder to crack through it with
Raichu.
Raichu, yeah.
And Pincurchin, but I don't think Pincurchin was ever in against it.
No. I mean, I think that I believe that Raichu had Nasty Plot as well, just for that eventuality, but I didn't really get to show it.
The only thing he used with Raichu was Rising Voltage a single time.
Yeah. So, Still was a little tricky, but ultimately, like, yeah, it was just hard for Skittles.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's like same as with the previous matchup or previous match. It's just some matchups are just very difficult from the team building on onwards, and it's clear that Skittles tried his best, and he did a good job. I'm pretty sure I didn't get, like, during our drills, I don't think 3-0 might have been either been the best result or might have not even gotten to that point.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, in practice, this team just went absolutely nuts. I mean, Morpeko, Melmetal, Alolan Raichu, Slurpuff, even, like, they all did so much. I mean, it was, like, pretty much just pick the way that you lose the game every time.
Yeah, just, like, not having a good answer to all these electric types, and not even having, like, a decent resist to it, it puts you in a really tough position.
Yeah.
Especially against a team that's built to abuse it, like this team is with Morpeko. Sorry, not Morpeko, Big Gurchin.
Yeah.
And Raichu.
So, that's pretty much that, right? I believe that's it.
Yeah. That is it for Division 2, Week 2, Season
4.
2 times 2.
2 squared. Season
also,
2 to the tooth power.
Yeah, so I guess we will see you next time in the Week 3 recaps.
Yeah, hopefully I won't be in both of them next week.
Hopefully we don't need to do our own divisions again, but
yeah, it's kind of getting that way. We'll see.
We've made mistakes, and we'll just kind of have to live with them. We try not to be biased.
Yeah, we try. We don't succeed. I don't succeed specifically, but yeah. Whatever. It's fun. I always enjoy doing the recaps. Thank you for joining me, Aurora.
Yeah.
Shouts to Cabral for editing these. You do a killer job. Thank you if you watch them to the end, or even if you just time skip to matches that you're interested in. That's what they're for. Thank you for making Double Dip Draft Season 4 really dope so far. I've been super enjoying it. The storylines and the teams and the mechanics and the YouTube content. It's great. I'm enjoying Season 4 a lot so far.
Yeah, we've had a lot of, like, intricate little things for people to learn, I guess, like stuff with the rising voltage not working on levitating Pokemon, because only God knows, really.
Because why did they program it so that it arbitrarily either checks if you're grounded or your opponent is grounded? Makes it really confusing. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. I've been Spood with the Southtown Sandslashers.
And I've been Aurora from the Hoensbroek Hunters.
And we will be seeing you next week. Thank you for joining us. Good night!